Good morning, Dale. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for
Great.
having me on
Great to
this.
have you.
Was
Great to
that?
have you. I said, great to have you. Want to chat with you a little bit. I won't be asking sharing any bio of you because I want to, hear from your perspective by the end of our discussion. You will have quite a bit of persons knowing everything about you.
I hope
So,
not.
what do you have to hide? Everything
Well,
that you
Langston Hughes' story. I forget the name of the story, but the boy who stole the purse, and then the woman took him back to her house and said, and then she said, "You think I never done nothing wrong?" And she said, I done things that I wouldn't tell God if you didn't already know. So I think all of us have some of that.
Yeah, yeah, for
All of
sure.
us do, for sure, definitely, definitely. So, Mike, I have a number of questions I have to ask, and I'm going to start with the number one, which is asking you, can you please share with us about the evolution of or your writing? What is your writing routine, and how did you develop that discipline to go complete your first book? And how has it been going? So it's a long
All right.
question, but it's really just focusing on the evolution of your
Right.
writing.
Well, I think first I have to confess, pardon my voice, I just kind of coming off of some kind of laryngitis.
That's okay.
Excuse me.
I can hear you
Fir-
quite well.
Okay, good. First, I have to confess, it took me 13 years to write that there book there.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd never written a book before, a novel before, and I really only had summers when I could write. I kept trying to write during the year. I'm a school teacher,
Okay.
so that's when it just afforded me there. But then I took the opportunity during the summers, and I really honed down on it, and made that time the best possible time I could. Um, so as far as the process, again, I don't, could you maybe clarify the
Okay.
question a
Well,
bit?
so let me tell you again. So how did your writing, what was your first book, for example? How did you start the writing? And what is the process that you used?
Okay. So this basically what I did, I'm what you call a plotter. They say there are plotters and there are
Right.
pantsers, people who write by the seat of their pants, but I have to plot everything out. So
Mm,
I think it took me like a whole summer between the research, the initial research that I did, because it is
mm-hmm.
historical fiction and it is cultural fiction. So I wanted
Okay.
everything to be as, close to what it should be as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so between the research and I wrote the outline over a summer, and then after that I started chiseling away chapter by chapter, you know um taking it as I can. I'm the type of writer. I know they say that you should write something and then go back and edit it. I can't do that. Maybe it's because I'm an English teacher, but I write
Mm-hmm.
a paragraph and I go back and I work it and I work it and I work it. And then I write the next paragraph. So, but a lot of people advise against that. The only
Mm-hmm.
person that I can look to and point to is F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote The Great Gatsby. That was his method as well. So at least I'm in good company there.
Mhm.
Yes.
So you write as it comes. So so that's where your evolution of your writing. I'll go to the second question. What was the most significant creative challenge you faced in your writing career? And how did you ultimately overcome it? The
All right.
most significant creative challenge.
So I had written the novel, first draft. My wife reads it
Uh-huh.
and she tells me, so there are three main characters, but there's one, the antagonist,
Mm-hmm.
and who's very important in the novel. And my wife says, we need to know more about Malcolm. That's his name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And I remember hearing, what's her name again? I can't believe Sarah Collins.
Uh-huh.
The story she wrote about Franny Langton, I think it was. I remember hearing her talk, and she said she talked about the challenge of having to go back and rework things. And so I said, man, if Sarah could do it, I'm going to take her example and do it too. And I ended up coming up with the idea of writing letters from Malcolm's mother, who is in South Africa, um, letters back and forth. And through those letters, you get his backstory. But also, I remember one of my fellow English teachers, she always says that letters lie, because you're only getting that person's perspective and what they want you to see. So I really tried to make the letters that way, in that you learn the backstory, but you also sense this woman is twisting the story to her advantage, because she had left he and his siblings when they were very young and gone off to South Africa with her husband. So yeah, but then those ended up being the most fun to write. And a lot of people have told me that that is what they love the most about the novel, is the letters. So, if I hadn't persevered through and taken this, then that wouldn't have happened.
Okay, so that's the greatest challenge that you've had. Any questions from our audience?
I love the approach. It works. That was quite ingenuitive of you, so creative of thinking of the letters, even at that point when you were going and already gone and thought you had established what was your story. And thank God for wives.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes. She's my best editor. I did have two paid editors. One who is amazing, and I'm going to use her again. Another one who I would never even suggest again, but that's besides the point. But my wife really, when everything is said and done, she helped to make this book what it is. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I know there's a question you had about how do you balance the artistic integrity of your writing with the commercial realities? You might as well jump in.
Yes, of course. Go right ahead.
So being an English teacher, I tend to be, I want to be literary, and that's what I try to do, and I love doing that. But then I give it to my wife, and she goes, "No, no, no, that's not going to work. People are not going to get this." And and so I've learned. Of course, it hurts, it stings badly, but I've learned to just take that and go, all right,
Right.
and work with it. And of course, sometimes I tell her, no, honey, this is what's going to be in my book. Leave me alone. But usually, what she has to say helps to make it more commercially viable.
Yes. And I guess when you're looking at the type of writing that you're doing in terms of like your research on historical and the cultural fiction, then I guess because of those things, you have to be a little bit different in your creativity and the challenge that you have imposed. The other question I want to ask is, can you describe a pivotal moment or a piece of advice that transformed your writing approach, or your approach to writing? The thing is, you can, if you already answered, then you can simply answer whatever
No,
comes to mind.
no. I think, all right, so I had written about 4 chapters of the novel. And I'd gotten a little feedback, but then I went to this writing group that I
Uh-huh.
online.
Uh-huh.
I went one week and I just observed, and the next week I came back and they read my first chapter, and they really ripped it apart. Or at least I felt like they ripped it apart. They were ripping my heart out, if you know what I'm saying. And
Yes.
I left not upset, but upset, not at them. But then as I thought about it, I said, you know what, this is really good. And I went back and I reworked the chapter, and then I reworked the other chapters based on the things they had said. And then from that point, I included those things as I continued to write. And I think what that did for me was, everybody says, feedback is important, and intellectually I knew that, but after that point, I really got it. And so I do love feedback, and I seek it from anywhere I can get it, because it only makes my writing better.
So the feedback is something that is a little bit challenging for all of us on our writing, because it feel like it's our baby. Why are you attacking our child? So I do understand that in that regard. And I know Dr. Sue, Dr. Ian, yourself are authors as well. And maybe is there a comment on that? Can you identify with what he has said in terms of the feedback in your writing?
I do. I think one of the greatest takeaways right now, for persons who are going to be watching this later and for those unknown, is great takeaway is to be open-minded
Right,
and
right,
open to feedback. It is
right,
difficult,
right.
but if you are willing to not just be giving of what's in here and what you think is okay, but to have a Mrs. Mahfood in your life.
And by the way, she'll be glad to be. She does editing work.
Oh,
Okay,
she
that's a
does.
little advertisement.
We make a note of that.
Okay.
Because my editor passed away 7 years ago, bless
Oh,
her
Oh,
soul.
wow.
That was my mom, and I stopped my book because she passed, because she wasn't
mhm,
there to edit it for me.
yeah,
Oh,
But yeah, I think that is the biggest takeaway here. I mean, Indiana writes a lot, so
yeah, she does. She's a
she
prolific writer.
could probably be more able to talk to that than us.
Well, I don't get a lot of feedback because I have the time of day when I write and nobody seem interested in what I write anyway. But back in the day when I used to write stories, my sister, I asked her, she was visiting me from Jamaica, and I asked her to read one of my stories, and she slaughtered me.
Right.
She
Yeah.
said it was all like too racy and garbage and everything, but and I don't, so from that, I don't have anybody read anything for me. I just write. I just write.
It is hard. It is hard, and I
It
remember.
is
I think the
hard.
biggest challenge I had, and it was when I was doing my dissertation,
Right.
and I had given it to someone to read,
Yeah.
and they tore that thing
Mortified.
apart. And I gave up. I put it away, and I gave up just based on this one person's feedback.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until months after I got the dearest of mentors and coaches,
Mhm.
our dear Dr. Smiley, and
Right.
she read it like, why would you stop writing
Right. Right.
this?
Right. Right.
You're going on the right path, but sometimes it's about, and I say that because the person who was giving me the feedback wasn't someone who was knowledgeable in the area that I was writing about in the
Mhm.
Right.
first
Yes,
place.
Right.
yes.
yes,
Right.
yes,
Right.
yes.
Right.
Wasn't someone who was
Right.
familiar with even dissertation, right? That kind of thing. There was a lot of,
Right. Right.
yeah, when
Right.
I got to the backstory, there was a
Right.
lot of rust to it in terms of the feedback given, but that thing had stung
Right.
really hard.
Right.
And it's by God's grace that I was able to pick it up again and move forward with it. So
Mhm.
we need people who we can trust and
Right.
hear
Right.
from, and yeah,
Yes.
I'm
Right.
gonna.
So feedback is actually good to get feedback on our writing, but we have to know where we're getting it from, because if the
Yes,
Mhm.
person,
yes.
like
Right.
Dale, to go back to what you're saying, if you're writing historical fiction and the persons don't know anything about the background to all of that, how can they critique that? You are doing your review, you're searching, you're doing your research on it, and then you have to know where you're getting the feedback from. Obviously, if you're writing it for another audience, then you want to make sure that they come in too. So you're
Mhm,
taking that
mhm.
hard knowledge and passing it on to others. It must be in a way
So,
that they can get it, yeah?
so I
Okay.
want to add to that. Oh, go ahead, Indiana.
Okay, so going back to my sister, on another occasion, I had written a book of short stories again, and she and her neighbor read one of the stories, and she was critiquing. It was about a baby, something about a baby. I don't remember what it was, but she was saying that a baby at say 3 months couldn't do what I said that the baby was doing in the story. But what she failed to recognize is that the story is fiction.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
she don't get that. She just
Mm-hmm.
looking at,
Mm-hmm.
well, she have a
Mm-hmm.
baby and she know that baby don't do that for 3 months.
It's funny.
Talking about the exception here.
Yeah,
That's funny.
So that's why we have to
Yeah.
know where we're coming from. But Dale,
yes,
can I
yes.
ask you
You
to
mind if
take
I just jump in on this?
and okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so, and I agree, we need to know who's giving it and choose wisely. So when the editor that I chose, I did a lot of research. I needed somebody who could give me a sensitivity read because I was not just writing from, a white Jamaican perspective. I was writing from all sorts of Jamaican perspectives.
Right, right.
And I was writing from a woman's perspective as well. The
Mhm.
3 chapters go back. So I found this wonderful woman. Her parents are Jamaican, and she does go back. And
Mhm.
so she was the perfect person to give me the type of feedback that I needed, as well as because she's American as well. I, I wanted the audience, the book, as much as possible to
Mhm.
appeal to Jamaicans, but at the same time, not be so Jamaican that
Yes.
That you
non-Jamaicans
can't reach
couldn't
another audience.
connect. Yeah.
Right.
And she was fantastic. And even the way she worded things was very graceful, which also definitely helps.
Definitely, always that grace that it's how you communicate that feedback.
Mhm.
I like that.
Yes.
So I want to take you back to the beginning because I think we skipped over some stuff. Take us to Dale. What started your interest in writing? What sparked it?
Oh boy. Um, you know, the first time I remember writing anything was in high school in 12th grade up here. I wrote a poem, 2 poems, and one of them was about a Rasta man. Now, I really didn't know much about a Rasta man. I mean, of course, I listened to Bob Marley all the time, and I did in Jamaica. But from my little perspective, I wrote that, and then I wrote some other, angsty teenager poem. And then I really didn't write again for a while. Shortly after that, I did give my life to Christ,
Mhm.
and I found myself writing like worship lyrics and making
Right.
up little songs. And I
Mm.
did a lot of that. And then eventually I went back to when I did go back for my master's in English education, I started taking poetry classes and
Mm.
that sort of thing. And so I started writing poetry. And that's mostly what I've written for most of
Mhm.
my life. I've really written a lot of poetry, and I love
Mhm.
doing that. I do need to publish a book or two. It's just a matter of time. I have the poems. It's just a matter of the time. And then probably like now about 20, 15 years ago, sitting at the dinner table with my mother and my wife and my 2 daughters, and my mother is telling us stories about growing up in Westmoreland and how her father was a bad man, very bad man. And she told us many stories over the years. So finally I said, you know what? I'm going to write a novel about this. And my mother, everybody said, do it. And I'm like, oh, I've never written a novel. I think I've written one short story in my life. But then part of the process of the 13 years was the process of learning to
Mhm.
write a novel. And I wanted a quality novel. I mean, I was an English teacher. I'm an English teacher. So I wanted a quality novel. So that's kind of the process. And then since then, uh, I've even I'm just about to today finish writing and making some changes on a screenplay that I'm going to put into a Hollywood competition. Uh,
Nice.
I imagine you guys know Deborah Earhart.
Yes.
She had read
Yes.
my
Yeah.
novel.
Yes.
I gave it to her, and this was very cool. I gave it to her when I saw her down here.
Mhm.
Didn't really know her that well, but so she comes back a week later and says, she calls me, said, Dale, a lot of people give me their books and I read a few pages and whatever, but I read yours Friday morning. I opened it. I didn't get out of bed till my husband get back from work, and he said, so what you still doing in bed? She read the book the whole day. So she called me and said, you
Ah,
have to take one of your short stories and write a screenplay. So
right.
now look here, I'm writing screenplay. No, I think I prefer writing
Hey,
novels, but
hey.
it's been a great experience writing a screenplay,
Right,
seeing things from a
right,
different, it's a whole different ball.
right,
Whole different
right, right, right.
ballgame.
And that's
Now
those.
I understand why
Uh-huh.
you read the book and then you watch the movie and you go, well, what happened to the
Yeah.
movie? Now I understand why. There's just no way. It's very hard
Mhm.
to do that.
Yes, yes, yes.
So,
There's a lot you can unfold in that regard. So this purpose of our chat is really to share with first-time authors or those who are aspiring to be authors what are some of the difficulties and so on that they have to go through. And in hearing from you talk, you're sharing a lot with them. Now, I have this concept that I call publish and run. Publish and run, meaning a lot of persons publish and run. So I wanted you to step in a little bit because I think you do great marketing. Share a little bit about what is your perception of marketing and how you do it and all of that.
All right. So marketing is absolutely necessary. Somebody says that, and a lot of writers don't like this, and I understand why. I don't like it either. But when you're a writer, you're not just a writer, but you're in business
Right.
because you have to get that book out. And I mean, I would rather just write and keep writing and people buy up everything, but that's not the reality of life.
Right.
So so the first thing everybody needs to do, and I've heard this 100 million times, I listen to a lot of publishing podcasts. You have to, from an early stage, you have to build your email list and get email people so that when the book comes out, you have a ready audience, to begin purchasing the book. But the way I have built mine, and mine isn't like a huge, by any means, it's not huge. It's like maybe 500, 600 people. But by right,
It's maybe like 500, 600.
no,
No,
honestly,
no, I'm saying how many of us have
well, no, I say
put
that to
that
say
together?
that is nothing
I
when
know.
it comes to selling books
Fierce.
either. But basically, the way I did it was I would write a short story. And what I did is I wrote 4 short stories that were backstories and forward stories to the novel, and I started putting on like social media. I'd say, here's my short story. If you want it, go here. You can download it. But when they go there, they have to give me their email address. I mean, if I'm going to give them a free short story, I need something, right? In a sense, I guess you could say it's,
Yes.
but that's pretty much the way I've built it. I have experimented a little bit with like Facebook ads, and I did get quite a few signups through Facebook ads. I mean, it's kind of challenging. I don't like doing all that stuff, but it's part of what you have to do. And then social media. You and I were talking before. It takes a lot of time to put these videos together or something like that. And I have basically taken a break over the last, I would say, 6 months. But I know I'm going to have to gear up again as I'm start writing the new novel, which is going to be starting in April. I do have the outline done. I just need to start writing it. I'm going to have to start gearing up again, getting people aware. Oh, Dale's writing a novel, and that sort of thing.
So
But
and
it's
you start
important.
that from early on. So
And
sometimes
if
we
I could add this, one of my friends, she can afford to do it. She pays to have somebody do all her.
right, right, right,
And if somebody can pay, I wish I could afford it. I just can't afford it. I'm a school
right,
teacher.
right.
But that's another option.
All right, so we were chatting before as well, and I think you brought it up in another area about let's say the Jamaica Brews Festival. So there are also other bigger events that I know you participate in, and this is just again marketing. Share how you got involved in that, and if there is a benefit to your books getting involved
Okay.
in
So
arrangements
that's a
like that.
really good question. They do say when you write your first book, it's not going to sell very much.
Mm,
And that's okay because
mm,
you're like a nobody. You
Nobody
have to
knows you.
build and write more and more books.
Mm,
So I've done okay. I haven't done great by any means, but what the book has done, it's become a calling card for me.
ah,
So whenever possible, like I gave Deborah Earhart my book,
mhm,
and see what happened to that.
mhm,
Um, I remember seeing uh, Consul General Oliver Mayer online, taking picture with this person, with that person, with everybody. So I said, wait a second, I want him to take a picture with me and my book. So I'm faced there, and I call, and somebody, a friend of mine, had his number. I said, "Give it to me." So I called him, and he said, "Oh, good, come out to this running thing we're having, whatever." Anyway, and we took a picture, and I used that on social media. So, but that opened the door because we were
Right,
talking, and
right.
he said, "You know what?" He said, "For a long time, I've wanted to start like a literary film thing," and I'm like, "Well, let's do it." And that's how that happened. And so the book became a calling card. Um, so that's the way I'm looking at it. Have I sold many books at things like Jamaica Brew or whatever? I personally haven't, and that's okay with me because I'm getting exposure.
That's the
Book
point.
is getting exposure, and we'll see where God takes it. You know.
So thanks for sharing that. And that is what happens. When I wrote my first book, I didn't realize Dr. Sue was quite well there as well at the launch. And I said, I'm somebody who I like to stay in the background. People don't believe that, but I prefer to stay in the background. That when you're an author now and you're doing a launch of your book, where are you? Up front and
Yeah,
center, up
yep.
Yes.
front and center. So you have to get into that space where the focus is on you and your writing and stuff like that. The book, as you said, the first book is usually just the beginning, and it is more book. You have to keep on writing. As in Dr. Indiana, she really writes. She writes a lot of nonfiction now to help others develop and grow. She
Nice.
really is a prolific writer. That's how I talk about her. The book is indeed a calling card, and I've always said to a lot of persons that sometimes you don't make money from books, right? It's not the book that makes the money. It is what you did with it. The Jamaica Brews Festival, that exposure that you have out there now, because you sat down, you gave the book, we took a picture, and the rest is history. That no, I went to the first Jamaica Brews because I see it at laboratory events, and I saw it. Nobody sent it to me. I just saw it on social media, and I sat down in the audience at the library, and I was there from early because I live far. So I'm there from early. And I'm sitting there. And by the time midday came around, the place was overflowing with people until so much so that the next year it was held at the Miramar Cultural Center. You guys know it more because you're involved in it more than me. But I went to sit down again and just listen and suck up everything that is in there. And what I saw was an evolution of writing for authors. So you had the authors sharing their stories, you had poets, you had dance, you had all these kind of things that ended up in screenplay and filmmaking at the end of the night. I wasn't there to stay there. I wasn't there to get to see that part. And that really hurt me because I really wanted to be a part of that whole day of events and activities. So I'm saying what you're sharing there about evolution of writing and where writing can take you from. It's a calling card. You hand it out. When people ask you for a business card, you hand them your book. Right?
Mm,
That's how you do. I go to places, and if people want to take a book, they can. Because what? It is exposing. I write on personal growth and development. So if you want to understand leadership, if you want to understand those things, so if somebody's stealing that from me, by all means, you're gonna grow. That's
right.
what I'm thinking, because it's not my word, it's based on research and all of that. So just put it in a form that will help you. So really, really and truly, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I want to add something to that. So people, when I said something about giving away my short stories to get an email address, other people may go, "I'm not giving away my short stories. I want to make a book and put it
Mhm,
together." Well, a couple of things. Number one, when you're giving away your short stories, you are, again, it's the calling card.
it
It,
is.
oh, I like what this guy wrote. Let me see what else is out there, you know.
Mhm.
And the other thing is people will say things like copyright and whatever. Somebody once said, or I've heard several people saying, stealing is the best, uh, piracy is the best form of compliment, because when at least more people are reading it now and then getting your name out there.
Yes,
So
yes, yes,
yeah, it's
yes.
about getting the book out,
Right, right,
getting the word out, you
right,
know.
right. And that's a good point that you've made there. And it comes back to why do you write? I've always asked people, why do you write? Why
Yeah.
do you write?
Are you asking me that?
I can ask you that. I can ask Dr. Sue. Yeah, why do you write?
I write because I have to write. end of story. My poetry, a lot
Something
of it,
that you,
lot of my poetry is personal. A lot of my poetry comes out of my time in God's word.
yes.
And then these stories I have to write. Like I have to write the second novel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just have to. It's my
Mm-hmm.
parents' story, very
Mm-hmm.
fictionalized.
Mm-hmm.
I have like another novel coming up, Italian American novel. My wife is Italian American. I feel like I'm Italian American. I love Italy. We just came back from Italy.
Nice.
I have to write this novel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have others in mind. I have a plan to write a series of Florida novels.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Floridian too. I just heard I'm doing a civics course, and there was a whole lesson on the history of Florida, and I felt proud. I felt proud to be a Floridian, you know. I mean, I know there's some bad stuff. There's bad stuff in we understand that. But I'm like, wow, Florida is a great place. And I have a whole series of Florida books I want to write. I have to write. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the long and the short of it.
Gosh, you have a lot to do. You realize that you just went through Florida, writing about Florida, Florida novel. You writing about Italian novel. No, listen, you're gonna have to write these, you know. We're holding you to
Yeah.
this, and it is on camera. It is it's being recorded.
God willing, if he is willing, I will do it. I will do it.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot. So it comes back to the point that books have babies, right? So this book came, and then this concept came, and then you follow it through. And if you're talking about God, because we're all here and we believe in Him, when He
Amen.
gives you something, it's not just like, okay, I'm just coming back from Italy and I have to write this Italian American novel. No, it is something that He has planted in your seeds, in
And
your
that was planned.
heart.
That's been years now.
Planted, right, and you've not
Yeah.
listened to it. So it is there, cemented, and it is now for you. It sounds like you're gonna be busy for the rest of the for a long time, not the rest of the
Well, I'm
year.
retiring in 3 years and I cannot wait because I just want to write.
Yes,
I
yes.
want to be like Jeffrey Philp, who he just every day he's writing. That's what I want to be like Jeffrey.
There you go.
Thank you
Nice.
very much. Any questions from our audience, ladies?
Mhm.
Any questions? Anything you'd like him to go into?
I'd
Any
like to I'd like to know, Indiana, are your books on Amazon?
Yes,
Okay.
but like as a third party thing, I really sell through the publisher, which is Lulu.
Oh, okay.
And they put it there. Of late, they changed the rules pertaining to that third party thing, and they have not been putting them on. But I find that I don't mind because I only get 50 cents. Shelly and Dr. Cameron and I have a book. And when it says third party, it's $1. So why bother?
Right,
So I
right.
don't care that they have been rejecting the later ones now, because I'm like, that's okay, because I can't be
because you're not
bothered
getting
with
any
the 50
profit from
cents.
it.
It just upsets me, so I don't want to see the 50 cents.
Right. Well, I'm
That,
going to check and see what I can find.
yeah. Dr. Sue, any
Yeah.
thoughts from you?
No, great interview. Lovely hearing from you, Dale. And as you speak about your books and writer, I think for all of us here, um, what jumps out at me is that forget the fact that we're writers. We're producers. It's a product. That thing, that book behind you, those books that Indiana has and Dr. Shelley, these are products, and these products we use to elevate us to the next. So here it is. Like you mentioned, you have the Jamaica Brew. That's an elevation into something else. You
Right.
know, the book and the product and everything takes you there. Um, I'm beginning to think about, and this is after that interview last week that I listened to with Dr. Winsome Minor. Remember Culture Corner with Dr. Sue that I used to
Right,
do.
right, right.
I'm thinking to really start putting that back together,
You need to, yes.
because that's something that, again, it's the product and it's helping others and it's giving
Mm-hmm.
others a platform
Mm-hmm.
um, do stuff like this. And the same with you guys. We just have to be here, believe in what we do, believe in our products, and just support each other as best of as we can. And a lot of the times, because we write from the heart and being the spiritual people that we are, God's given us this talent. It's not about us. It's about that
It's about
it's
others.
about
Right.
others. It's
Right.
about what they can learn from what we have put together. So that's why we are at a place where we can say it's, it's not necessarily about the finance. Yes, that is important, but we have a bigger calling.
Exactly. Exactly.
Amen.
All right. Thank
Agree.
you so much. Dale, is there any last words that you want to give? And then also to tell where we can find you and your books?
I don't care about finding the deal. It's the Wi-Fi one.
I like that.
Oh, that's funny. Well, you can contact
No,
me and my wife through my website,
Yes.
dalemahfood.com.
Okay.
So dalemahfood.com.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
on there as well, if you go there to the homepage,
yes,
you'll see this book,
yes,
book on it, click on that,
yeah,
and it leads to where it talks about the book, but you can also click and you can download there again with your email.
yes.
You can download a free copy of the first 5 chapters of the book.
Right, right,
That way you see if you really, it's an ebook,
yeah,
Okay.
if
yeah,
you want to
yeah,
read it, the whole thing.
right,
So yeah.
right, right. So Dale, you mentioned your website, and um when I was looking for information on you, I was about to ask you, and then something said, let me just go. And I went and I searched on your Instagram. So Instagram, social media, tell you about marketing that you do, right? So Instagram had your bio, had your in the link for the bio, you clicked onto it. When I got to your website, it had everything. It had a media page and all, which is what I would say to authors that make sure you have your media page. So the media page had your, and this is for aspiring authors, that's where I'm going to into it said. Your media page had your bio, and it had a photo that you can easily download. So therefore, you never really need to reach out to the author at all. So you and I are going to talk, and I didn't reach out and ask you for anything because it was all there. Of course, the books were also there as well. So your page, your website had everything very, very easily accessible. And then now you're telling me about the download of it. I think I have done it as well too, but the download of your books and where you can get onto your mailing list.
Nice.
So, right. So that's just the proof of it in it. So thank you very much for your
Thank you.
any last words these ladies would have to ask, or we're gonna be calling it a day now. So thank you very much. Any questions?
I just enjoyed it. I feel inspired, and I
I
write every day.
am.
I write every day, and I feel inspired to write more.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you need to
Nice.
start marketing Dr. Indiana.
Yeah, well, that's a problem. But I heard what they said. I heard what they
Yes, very
Right,
So,
inspiring.
right.
yes, yes,
Thank
Well,
you so much.
I want to say this, that not everybody writes to sell books.
Right, right.
We write because we have to write. Whether
Yes,
Mhm.
somebody is going to get it or not, we put it in good
right,
form. If somebody wants it, great. It's
right,
there for them
right,
to buy. If not, no
right.
big deal. So I don't think we should put pressure on ourselves.
Right.
Everybody,
Mhm.
everybody's different and
Everybody's different.
writes for different reasons.
Right,
Big and
right.
different.
Right, right, right. So
Yes.
I had written years ago when I just started writing officially. I had written a blog that says they asked a question on WordPress, why do you write? And I went into it and I was just writing. I said, I write because I have to. There's this thing inside of me that has to come out. I can't sit still without writing. So as you said that, it took me back to that piece of writing that I had. And it wasn't about, as I said, it wasn't about selling books or anything like that. But when you're writing, it still needs an audience needs to learn to hear about your writing, especially if you're
Yeah.
writing quality work like Dr. Indiana is. She writes a lot of quality work that needs to be out there that other persons can see. I think, but then we have also other forces like what we have with our writers group, this writers of group of South Florida. we do have a lot of opportunities there, and all of our work is basically available for others to see. So there are
Nice.
different ways of the skinning a cat. There's different ways of skinning a cat. So
Mhm.
Yes.
thank you very much. Greatly appreciated, and
Thank
um,
you.
looking forward to seeing more and learning more. And next year as well to the Jamaica Brews Festival next year.
Right.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. Thank
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 you,
you,
you.
man.
Dale. This was
Great
very
show.
inspiring. I
Yes,
mean, I
I
think
Absolutely.
love it.
I
Yes,
might
I
go pick up
enjoyed
the pen now because I've had this. I have this baby that's been needing to be birthed, and since January I have it on my board here. Must start my writing for my next publication, and I